Hello everyone, welcome again to another session of Minds Good Tech. Today we are here to see how we are going to create a SharePoint 2010 development environment on a Windows 7 machine to install SharePoint Server 2010, SharePoint Designer 2010, Visual Studio 2010, and SQL Server Management Studio 2010 Express Edition. For the very first step, we will be preparing our Windows machine to get the latest updates and patch. The second step will be getting the SharePoint installation media. The third step will be getting the PowerShell script to automate the installation. Next, we will be modifying our PowerShell execution policy so that we can execute the shell script which we have downloaded in the previous step. And we will be executing that PowerShell script. After that, we will be configuring SharePoint and creating a web application and site collection. That will be done for the SharePoint installation. For a complete development environment setup, we will be installing Visual Studio. On top of that installation, we will be using Visual Studio 2010. We will be installing SQL Server Management Studio Express to control the SharePoint instance of SQL Server. And in the last, we will be installing SharePoint Designer 2010. So let's start. The very first step, we have to prepare our machine so that we can install SharePoint. I have already installed Windows 7 Ultimate on my machine with Service Pack 1, but still I'll go and check for the updates. And I have two important updates and one optional update. I think I don't need this particular update as of now. It may require my PC to restart, which I don't want to do now. So I'll skip those installation. And next thing, I would like to rename my PC to something better understandable. Windows 7 SP 2010, something like that. Let me make it a little smaller. Win 7 SP 10. You can see I don't have a domain over here. I am just using workgroup, so it really doesn't matter. And yeah, I have to restart my PC now. So let's continue after restarting. So we are back after restarting our system. Let's see what is my computer name. Let me switch on PowerShell and okay, my PC name is changed. And in my next step, I have to obtain the SharePoint installation media, which I can get it from so what we have to do, we have to download this trial version of SharePoint from this site, and we need a trial key also. So I'm going to use this particular key. So I'll keep a copy of this particular key somewhere safe. Okay, and as once we have downloaded, we keep it aside and put in a directory so that we can execute this particular. We have placed all the required downloads required in this session in a directory. We have SharePoint server over here. The next step is, as I've told, that we need a PowerShell script, the download for which is already available in the description. Get the PowerShell script to automate the installation of SharePoint. So next step is to start PowerShell and change the execution policy, because we have downloaded this particular script which we are going to run now from an internet-based site, and you have to tell your PowerShell that you can execute whatever scripts are downloaded. Set it unrestricted. Say yes, and you're ready to install this SharePoint. I have this script and this SharePoint installation in the same directory. However, it actually doesn't matter, but you can keep always on the same directory. And I'm going to execute this script. Okay, sorry. A little confusing, sorry. So now we have to provide the SharePoint path. I have to type completely. And we have copied the product key, you remember? We have to provide that product key to this installation. And here we go. So once this installation is started, it will go and configure our operating system to have required features and roles. It will take some amount of time, so let's skip on to the next step. So here we can see that on the next step it is downloading all the required prerequisites for SharePoint installation on Windows 7. This script will automatically download and install all the required setups. We have to wait for those things. The one thing we have noticed that using this particular method, we need an active internet connection so that the script can download and install the required softwares. So we are required to interact with the installation. It will not take much time. So this script has taken care of all kind of installation prerequisites are there for SharePoint 2010. You need not to worry about them. You need not to even worry about the sequence of installation of these prerequisites. You just go and execute this script. And just remember that you are running this PowerShell with administrator right. Otherwise, at certain point, you may lose your installation. The last installation. and we have started installing SharePoint. It should generally take on my particular machine. It will be taking around 10 minutes to install SharePoint. So let's skip to the end of installation process. The script is running from last 5 minutes, and I think it is about to complete the base installation of SharePoint. So the installation of SharePoint is done on my PC. It took around 16 minutes for me. Once it is done, we can close this PowerShell window. And run SharePoint product configuration wizard. Click next and continue. This one is also gonna take a bit of time, so let's skip to the end. I'm pausing my recording to start it again at the end. So it is about to finalize the product configuration, and let's see. As soon as it is finished, it will be opening a default site at port 80 and prompting us the system account. The site collection is going to be created for this particular web application. It will be prompting us to select the template for the site collection. We will be using blank site, providing default configuration for authentication, and our site is ready. In our next step, once we have installed, configured, and created a site collection, we have to install Visual Studio. So for Visual Studio, you have to go to this particular link to get the trial version of Ultimate Edition for Visual Studio 2010 if you don't have the full version with you. I have already downloaded for the demo purpose. This is the ISO image. ISO image we cannot actually mount directly in Windows 7. So what I'm going to do, I have got a 7-zip installer. Which is capable of actually extracting ISO images. This particular tool is a free tool and you can use it to extract many kind of archives. So these are archives it can handle. I will assign certain archives to it so that ISO file for Visual Studio can be extracted through. You can actually extract directly, but I got this menu option over here for 7-zip to extract the file. So I'll extract it to a folder. So it is done, extraction is done, and we have Visual Studio available here. I'll run the setup, install Visual Studio 2010. Follow the straightforward steps to install Visual Studio. Select whatever components you want to install. I want a custom installation. I don't want a Visual C++, F Sharp, and I don't need Office development. And I don't need Offscatter. I don't need SQL Server, Express Edition, and I need SharePoint developer tools. So I will be requiring 3.1 GB of installation space on my hard drive and start the installation. Let's skip to the end. It has already reached till the end. I think 1 or 2 installations are pending. And it's done. So once you have installed Visual Studio, you can always go for Service Pack 1 on top of that. Also on SharePoint 2010 you can install Service Pack 2, which is available. You can go and search for that. So I'm not interested on Service Pack as of now for this particular demo, but you can easily download the Service Pack from internet and install on top of that. Our next step involves installing SQL Server Management Studio Express Edition. I will be using 2012 version. You can download it from the link available here. So the downloaded file for this particular demo, which is already placed in my setup folder, I will double click to start the installation. Click on new server standalone installation or add features to the existing installation. Skip download of updates, though if you want you can do that. So finally we have reached to the wizard where we have to select certain features. Actually, I think we don't need. Actually, I think we don't need local DB and SQL Connect. Local DB and SQL connectivity SDK. So I'll skip that. And it is saying Visual Studio 2010 SP1 is required. So okay, it is because I'm installing SQL Server 2012 instance over here. So I think these two products are not compatible with each other without Visual Studio 2010 to be upgraded to SP1. So what I'll do, I'll get the SP1, which I have already downloaded. So I have copied Visual Studio 2010 Service Pack 1. I have to extract it again because I don't have any ISO mounting software installed on my PC. So and extract all the files in a folder. It is actually better to always install the latest service packs and patches on your um, machine so that you don't face any kind of difficulties. So I found the setup. Let's install the setup. It's a simple wizard kind of installation. You can um, do it yourself. I'm skipping till end for this particular installation. So here we have Visual Studio 2010 SP1 installed successfully. Let's rerun the test, and the test is passed. And continue. The installation process has been started. Let's skip till the end. Here we have finished our SQL Server Management Tools installation. So let's close this Management Studio installation wizard. So we have done with our installation of SharePoint Server, Visual Studio, SQL Server Management Studio, and at the last step we have to install SharePoint Designer, which I can freely download from the link provided in this document. Once you download the file, you can double click to install the setup. Accept and continue. Customize. I generally go for the customization to see what all components it is actually installing. So I think it's pretty much straightforward. Whatever it is installing, I think most of the things are required now. File location, user information, install now. So SharePoint Designer 2010 also has finished installing, and this makes the last installation of the main components required for a SharePoint development environment setup. Your machine is ready to start development on SharePoint 2010 using Visual Studio and SharePoint Designer and SQL Server Management Studio Express Edition. So let me know how you liked this video. Leave your comments and see you again in another session of Mindscope Tech. Till then, goodbye.